Hey everyone, I need to tell you about this. I don't even know where to start because something's going on at Campi Flegrei. The fluids are migrating and the temperatures are higher than ever and the earth keeps rumbling, guys. We just had another magnitude 3 followed by a 1.8 almost at 10 p.m. It was hitting the residents again, shaking for quite a little while, really scaring residents. The locals said, "Oh my God, my legs are trembling. I was so scared." And they're basically saying in the comments, if we don't die of a volcanic eruption, we will die of a heart attack. So the thing is, this earthquake swarm is going on just right when the authorities said, well, we think the magnitudes of the earthquakes are decreasing, although I can't really see that when you look at the list of the earthquakes of this ongoing rumbling every day. Basically, they're trying to say the earthquake swarm has ended, the next test started, it has ended, to give an end to this, maybe psychologically, but there is no end. It keeps coming. And now the director of the Vesuvius observatory of the INGV that surveils this monstrous supervolcano has given an update. And guys, really, if you watch regularly, you know there's more than 6 million people living in the greater Naples area that would be affected if that volcano did blow. And all these studies that I have reported on recently hint towards something like this, maybe a phreatic eruption first, but something like Monte Nuovo in 1538 as well. That's why it's so crucial that we look at what is going on. And the director of the Vesuvius Observatory has made it quite clear that something is going on. Before we start, let's have a quick look at the list of the earthquakes, how we see it's on the 29th, magnitude 1.8, on the 28th, 10 p.m., 3.0, on the 28th, 1.3, 1.0, 27th. So this goes down, and then we had a 2.0 on the 24th. We had a 2.4 on the 23rd. So I don't see this stuff decreasing, and we had many more earthquakes than the ones in the list because these are only the ones magnitude 1 and higher. So the 3 came with a loud boom that was really scaring the residents. And the epicenter is interesting this time. It was on the beach of Campi Flegrei at a depth of 1.9 kilometers. And the shock lasted for several seconds, was distinctly felt by citizens that are living between the upper and the lower parts of the city of Pozzuoli, of course. As always, Pozzuoli gets it, Campi Flegrei, Lucrino, Baccioli, Monteroschiello, and the western district of this huge mega city of Naples. And there is another city with even more inhabitants, 7 million people, that had no idea that they're dealing with an active volcano that could blow into their face. Completely out of surprise. They're now learning, they still don't know that something's brewing right underneath them. Watch that video on the end screen. I won't spoil the surprise which mega city that is. Mega financial hub, mega manufacturing hub, super important area. Check it in the end screen, but let's get back to the other area where people sit right on the volcano, and that is the greater Naples area and Pozzuoli that sits right on the area where the most likely spot will be for a potential eruption. Mauro De Vito said that at Campi Flegrei, the gas emissions have increased. This supervolcano is like a pressure cooker, and you know what it means if the pressure cooker starts to make more sound and more steam is coming out. So emissions have increased at the Solfatara area. That's the area you see here behind that looks like a gigantic beach, this beige area. And it has decreased at Peschiarelli, that is in the same area. So the gas emissions decrease in one area and they increase in one area. That is basically what he is saying. And they just released a bulletin. The new ones don't count in that yet. Over the past week, they had 61 earthquakes. Ground uplift is still steady with 1.5 centimeters per month. It's not decreasing. So the gas emissions have increased in the Solfatara, but what about the temperature? And that is absolutely, I always have to say, guys, groundbreaking. I mean, we're laughing right now. I hope this is not groundbreaking, but it's kind of scary if we look at the temperature. It's a rising trend, and that is confirmed again with the last bulletin. Average value of 165 degrees Celsius, a value that had never, ever been recorded before. That is kind of crazy. Especially the one fumarole, the name of the fumarole is Boca Grande, the great big fumarole. So never reached before, guys. So this Brady seismic event with the land rise, with the increased earthquakes, with the increased magnitudes, with the increased gas emissions, with the increased temperature. I mean, these are all the signs for catastrophe. And it keeps breaking records with everything. So Mauro De Vito says we should draw great attention to this phenomenon. This volcano shows, or this phenomenon shows no signs of decrease at all. So right now he says we need to keep a close eye on the Solfatara area, on the fumaroles and the flows in the Solfatara area. Everything is increased and everything's accelerating. It is very high. So we need to understand when we talk about this fluid migration, there was a greater migration of fluids that they detected recently all towards the Solfatara compared to the Peschiarelli area. And of course, this has increased the flows and the temperatures in the Solfatara area and has consequently decreased both at Peschiarelli. And what is important is that these fluctuations, these fluid movements are very superficial. Is that good or bad? So they are basically in the last kilometer under the surface, within a kilometer under the surface. They are not linked to the large geothermal system of the caldera. Is that good or bad? Sounds good at the beginning, but it's actually not. And I'll tell you why. In the big hydrothermal system, we do not see a reduction in energy. So what's coming out there is not reducing stress further down where it really counts. Everything continues with everything increasing, as it did in the recent years. The number of earthquakes with magnitude 3 or higher in 2025 has definitely surpassed already the number that was reached in 2024. Despite the fact, he says, that last year was really complex and really tough and really saw some big stuff happening. And he says, for this reason, we must pay the utmost attention to this phenomenon. He's on alert. He's outgoing as director of the Vesuvius Observatory. And I have a feeling since this was announced, since he knows he's gone anyways, he'll probably stay on in some other advising position. He is more, how do I say this, open to warn about dangers, because before in interviews he was always like, yeah, that's Brady seism, that's normal. And then his colleagues from the INGV, De Natale, Mastro Lorenzo, I've reported about this, they were like, evacuate, this is dangerous, at least evacuate the red zone, we could see an eruption, we are not prepared, update evacuation routes, right? But now I see a change. I've reported about his last interview, which was even stronger in the warnings that he was giving. So it is really striking, in my opinion, that if we look at the gas temperatures in the area of the fumarole that is in the Peschiarelli area, it's basically located still in the Solfatara crater, but on the outer edges of the Solfatara crater, and it's heavily under surveillance. There's constant camera surveillance and everything. So the temperatures there have been comparatively low in recent weeks, so people were hoping that something might calm down. Temperatures remained stable there at 94 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees, 96 degrees, something like this. But we have then, at the same time, a significant, really significant increase of gas emissions at the Solfatara. And I mean, temperatures of 165 degrees. Since I am monitoring the volcano, I have never seen that. And you haven't either if you watch my channel. So the temperature measuring instruments are roughly located 5 meters away from the fumarole. So there is a margin of error, but I doubt that it's so big that we can say, oh, maybe they are both have the same temperature. I really don't think so, because there's at least 30 degrees Celsius difference. We already discussed this before, when some gas emissions in the Peschiarelli area were getting less. So it looked like that the continuing earthquake swarm, or maybe the stronger earthquakes in the magnitude 4.6, that they might have collapsed something or blocked something so that not that much could come out. So if that was the case, that the way to the surface in Peschiarelli was blocked somehow, it would explain that the fluid started to migrate to the eastern part of the Solfatara towards the Bocca Grande fumarole. So the INGV director is really worried about these high temperatures. They're so much higher, right? Not just a few degrees. So we will have to monitor this, and I will monitor this for you. And here in the end screen, check which big city has a problem that they don't know about. Only the scientists do, and they're worried. Click the end screen if you want to support the channel, guys. Click the hype button if you find it. It's somewhere, sometimes underneath the video. Hype my video. This is like super liking my video so that it gets more exposure on YouTube. I would really appreciate that. And of course, like it, subscribe. If you want to fill me up with coffee to keep me going, check the link in the description. Thank you for your supers. Click the join button to become a supporting member and behind the scene videos. Rudy and I, Eddie, of course, as well. We are on a trip, and I'm taking my members with me. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, guys. Click here. I see you in a second. Stay safe.